Why is God silent? You see, God's silence, listen, God's silence doesn't mean that he's absent. That's the purpose in many ways of this whole story that's unfolded. Genesis 45, 1 and 2. Let's read it. It says this: Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, "Out, all of you." So he was alone with his brothers. Remember the brothers who had betrayed him and sold him to the Midianites. And when he told them who he was, then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. You see, Joseph had been betrayed by his brothers. They actually were going to kill him, and then they ended up selling him to a group called the Midianites. And the Midianites, maybe they didn't like him or want him, but they thought maybe we'll make some profit off of him. So they sell him to this guy named Potiphar, and Potiphar, his wife falsely accused Joseph of trying to rape her, and so he gets thrown in prison. And this is years in the making. And all the time, Joseph's wondering, why did my brothers do this to me? And maybe the deeper question, why is God silent? I can't hear him. I don't know if you've ever been there. I have. You see, in this story, there's all kinds of confrontation and tension and testing and all that's going on. And as we look at it, maybe, and as you read those 3 chapters there, you'll see it over and over and over again. You see, Genesis 42 through 45 is not just about family reconciliation, right? They all get together and kumbaya and all that, right? It's about God's sovereignty, listen, repentance, and redemptive purpose colliding in real time. And not just for Joseph. We're going to see that here in just a moment. So again, why in the moments of our deepest pain, we don't hear, or it's very hard to hear God speaking to us? Joseph reveals his identity to his brothers after a season, lots going on. You'll need to read it. And he weeps, he forgives them, and declares God's sovereign hand over the entire story. It's a fascinating story of redemption and bringing together of a family, right? The family's reunited, and God's redemptive plan and purposes through Israel continue. You see, God's silence, listen, God's silence doesn't mean that he's absent. On the contrary. You see, Joseph never hears God speak audibly while he's in prison. All those years he spent in prison, we have no indication at all that Joseph hears God speak. And you wonder, if I was in that situation at least, I'd be wondering, God, are you still there? Are you still with me? Are you real? He never gets a prophetic update. God, why are you doing this? What's going on? What is there greater purpose to this? Because if there is, then I'll go through with it. And we oftentimes kind of do that, right? We say, okay, God, if there's something you're doing, I'll endure the season. But if this is just kind of a season of that, then I don't know that I want to go through it. Yet every detail is being carefully orchestrated by God in the background. In Genesis 45:5, it says this: God sent me, Joseph's talking to his brothers, God sent me before you to preserve life. And there it is right there. That's the purpose in many ways of this whole story that's unfolded. But until it was before that Joseph could get there to say that, all this reconciliation had to happen, and all this behind the scenes of all these moments of tragedy and trauma in Joseph's life, and all this took place. And Joseph's wondering the whole time, what's the purpose? What's the reason? And now we see. It was to preserve life, because we realize that Joseph ended up literally saving the world from starvation. You see, Joseph doesn't immediately reveal himself to his brothers. First, he tests them, right? And I'm not saying this is a formula that we all should do with loved ones or friends, right? But he doesn't test them to punish them. He tests them to reveal whether or not they've changed. Now, remember that Joseph is a type of Jesus for us. And sometimes Jesus will do that in our lives. He'll test us to see, have I truly changed, right? Have I truly changed to the point where we can bring reconciliation? God is bringing the buried sin of the brothers to the surface. Not to shame them, but to free them. Because there's something beyond the story of Joseph here that's taking place. Watch the transformation in Joseph's brother Judah. Now remember, Judah is in the lineage of Jesus. We talked about lineage and how important that is. And Judah is in the lineage of Jesus. So he's got to be kind of on his A game, I would think, right? Now, as we read this in verse 33 and 34 of chapter 44, watch what it says. So please, my Lord, Judah speaking to Joseph, his brother. But he doesn't know it's his brother. See, he just thinks he's second in charge to Pharaoh here. So please, my Lord, let me stay here as a slave instead of the boy, Benjamin. So Judah's saying, you know what? I'll stay, send my brothers home to dad, and let the boy return with his brothers. For how can I return to my father if the boy is not with me? I couldn't bear to see the anguish this would cause my father. So Judah's saying, hey, send Benjamin home. I'll remain in prison, because it's not going to be just a few days. This is a long journey back, convincing dad of all this, and a long journey back, right? So there's going to be many days, months that go by, and Judah's willing to remain in prison. This is the same Judah that sold and told the brothers to sell Joseph to the Midianites for profit, right? Now, Judah offers himself as a slave in the place of Benjamin. Think about the transformation that has gone on in Judah's heart as a result of that. So this story is more than just about Joseph and about reconciliation between the brothers. This is a story testing, if you will, Judah to see if he's been listening, because years have gone by. You wonder if Judah has been thinking about the sale of his brother Joseph to the Midianites from years ago. You wonder if he's been having conversations with God. You're wondering what kind of life he's led up to this point. So here's kind of the application for us. Your pain may be the very platform for someone else's survival. I know that's hard to hear. I don't like hearing it. I don't even like saying it. But this is the hinge of the entire story. You see, once Judah steps forward, Joseph breaks. And we see transformation now taking place in Joseph's life to embrace the very people who brought him the harm. I've walked through a few of these seasons in my own life where I was questioning why, God, and what are you up to? And are you up to anything? Or is this just kind of a big joke? Or what's happening? Are you for real? Why am I going through this season? Is there reason? And silence. But as I look back upon those seasons of my life, I realized, you know what? He was forming me more into his image through those times. But it's not automatic. Just because you go through a bad season, traumatic experience, it's not automatic you're more into the image of Jesus, right? Just because we go through a tough thing, we don't come out unscathed. And so what has to happen is it's when we realize that God has been working and is working in the midst of this. Although I don't understand, I understand that he's working in my life for his good, for my good, that we might fully appreciate it when his plans are revealed to us. We're so used to the noise in our life. We always got to have the radio on, the television on. We've always got to have background noise in some way. But God often speaks in the whispers, so we need to quiet ourselves and listen for his voice. Your story is not to be defined by what happened to you, but by what God does through the story. So forgiveness is not pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is declaring that the pain no longer controls you. So, why in the deepest, darkest moments of our life does God often seem silent? In reality, he's not silent. He's loudly working behind the scenes of our lives for purpose. So what God has planned for us goes beyond ourselves. It's when we are at our weakest that God is strongest. The silence we hear is his redemption at work. Hey, don't forget to check out the video from yesterday. It's all part of God's plan as we walk through the Bible. Until next time, thank you.